The voice of sharing, 居然ASEAN。
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Good morning, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us on a very beautiful Friday morning.
Yes.
And today is also the day that is happening right now, in fact, which is the World Environment Day.
And then it is to remember and all those issues regarding environment today. This is a day to remember and how we as in human beings have been taking care of environments which is just right next to us. And this is also for the well-being of humanity, the environment, and as well as the functioning of economic, and ultimately depend on the responsible management of the planet, natural resources.
So there you go. On the World Environment Day, I guess as ordinary Malaysians or Southeast Asians, what we can do is to address key issue and create more awareness on the issue of haze, which is transnational pollutions, the overusage of plastic bags and all that. For me personally, on World Environment Day is a day where I try my best not to use that many plastic bags as possible.
Right.
Not that I use it that much, actually.
I think it's a good practice, to be honest. And then Penang is one of the states in Malaysia who started not using plastics. And then every Saturday it also influenced the Kuala Lumpur that plastic is not recommended, and a lot of people have to pay on Saturday to use for plastic bags. So we are taking step by step here in Malaysia, and also in Japan. Apparently there is no dustbin in public area. That is also for people not to throw the rubbish on the street and anything to harm the environment. So today, World Environment Day is something that people should remember, and also perhaps remind themselves of what they heard and that they watched so far.
And on another note, what is happening right now is something interesting, which is the one that is organized by Nothing to Hide by our Prime Minister Najib, which some of our colleagues at ASEAN is there currently. Just a bit of a mention about it. Our Prime Minister Najib, he mentioned that he will not be hiding anything. He will have a no-hold-barred question and answer session to somehow strengthen Malaysians, that he is the Prime Minister that Malaysians should be confident on.
And this is something that he has been really vocal regarding his position in Malaysia as well, that he was really criticized by previous a former Prime Minister, who is Dr. Mahathir, that you should step down from the political government. However, Prime Minister Najib has been showing his strong will to stand on his feet and also to be able to push forward in terms of economic growth and in terms of nation image to other surrounding nation as well. And regarding this, there is another controversial issues regarding 1MDB, and that's pretty hot issues for the past few months. And then hopefully even after all those ministers gathered on these 1MDB issues, there hasn't been anything exact solution to this yet. So hopefully this talk today will bring something, and also from the ministers of Malaysia itself.
Yes, and from Najib aside, there's also another controversy, which is about past election. So a lot of people are unhappy about it, because for past, the ones that a lot of the liberal Malaysians were eyeing for, which is the more, I would say, liberal, less conservative past member, all of them were knocked down by the conservatives of the past members. And among those that won the election, of course, there is Datuk Sri Abdul Hadi Awang. He's a very conservative president, and he's also a president that do not mind to play fire with UMNO in a way.
Right.
On the other hand, a lot of the people were hoping that would get more position in the past Central Committee, like Muhammad Sabu. He was knocked down by another conservative, which is this Datuk Tuan Ibrahim, and people are not happy about it, seems like.
Will that bring a lot of changes in the system? Because you mentioned that it was pretty liberal so far, and that because of all those conservative people who have replaced or were elected for this, will there be a lot of changes in the system?
There will be a lot of changes in the system. For the last 20 years or 10 years, people have seen PAS evolve from a very conservative, very rural-based political party to a political party that can win hearts and minds in the urban area. In fact, PAS took an unprecedented move ahead when they won places where majority of the populations are not necessarily Malays, and they won seats in places where non-Malays voted for them. And with more conservative in the seats of PAS Central Committee, unfortunately, issues like hudud, issues that are conservative in nature might not gel well with a lot of the ordinary Malaysians, especially non-Muslim Malaysians.
Right. So having sort of another conservative party in Malaysia, which has always been already been expressed by the public that they are not really happy with this vote and also the election that has happened already. But then we also need to see, because now we can't change with the result. However, we just need to see how these people are executing their plans for its own party, as well as furthermore the relationship between UMNO and other parties in Malaysia.
But the problem is, it's not just people are not happy with the new PAS Central Committee, it's also its coalition members in Pakatan Rakyat. PKR and DAP has not been doing very well in terms of their relationship with PAS, and in fact Hadi's win of 80% of votes cast is likely to see further antagonism between PR parties, given that DAP has cut relations with Hadi Awang and calling him a liar over his unilateral move to have hudud, or the Islamic Penal Code, enforced within the agreement of the opposition partners. The word hudud has long been disappeared since probably 20 years ago, when PAS decided to move towards the welfare state direction. But it seems like they are making a U-turn and they are going back to their, I would say, quote-unquote roots, focusing more on the ideal or the idea of Islamic State.
So it's not only that Malaysia as a whole it's going backwards, but then it also comes along with another party in Malaysia, which shows that which also will bring a lot more questions when it comes to from the public as well as from outside of Malaysia.
And because of that, I personally hope that PAS would be able to evolve itself, because a lot of people are skeptical of Pakatan Rakyat in the next 5 years when we have the next general election. What would the opposition be? How can it evolve itself? How can it improve the confidence of people? And these are key issues that the opposition needs to keep in mind. Anyway, we'll take one short break. When we return, we'll talk about the political and current affairs that is happening in Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
So hi, this is Arlene again.
You're still with Grace.
And of course at our ASEAN Daily, we bring you news from Southeast Asia and also outside of Southeast Asia. And this time we are focusing on Hong Kong. Something that is happening right now is Hong Kong. Thousands rally in Hong Kong for Tiananmen vigil. A lot of people might not realize, but the Tiananmen Square massacre happened in the 80s by when students in China protest against the communist government. But it was such it was an issue it was such a controversial issue that China practically, just blanket or put a blank on that part of their history. So even if you ask ordinary Chinese, they wouldn't have realized that it happened in their country.
Perhaps that's why all the students and the people in Hong Kong, they wanted to pay the tribute to the oldest people who passed away during that the event. So what happened was a huge crowd were filled with candles to pay their tribute to the hand. And of course the history is there, but like you mentioned, China itself, they didn't want them to put it in the history or for them to remember, which is very cruel because to everybody, and then history comes generation to generation, and then people will learn from history, and as well as to remember and to paying tribute is something to appreciate and also to remember who sacrificed themselves in the history and with regardless of what kind of event it was.
And the crowd is quite huge. It filled the 6 football pitches in Victoria Park, and the mood was somber, of course, with crowd holding candles aloof as they paid silent tribute to the dead. And students later on took the stage and burned a copy of Hong Kong's mini constitution or basic law, saying it restricted democracy. Seems like Hong Kong has no choice but to adhere to China when it comes to how the country's political direction would be. On the other hand, when it comes to human rights abuse, another country that is also plugging with it is Thailand. So apparently Thai junta had ordered a cancellation of human rights event.
And then it looks like Thailand has not been so cooperative when it comes to human rights, and especially the recent event of Rohingya issues as well. And apparently there was supposed to be the human rights event, which has to be the sort of the panel discussion exploring these human rights abuses that have been taking place during the junta's 1-year rule. But however, it was cancelled. It was just banned the discussion itself in the country.
But in a statement released by the Foreign Correspondents Club of Thailand, that it had been forced to cancel the event on the orders of the NCPO, or probably the national the government itself. And of course the organizer has not been able to explain why. The NCPO is actually the official name for Thailand's junta, which is the National Council for the Restoration of Peace and Order. I'm always skeptical when it sounds so nice and and good. The word peace and order sounds very positive, but actually it's the other way around.
And then it's one of the most comments that used very commonly by the government. They always go for peace and they go for the harmonious, all this collaboration. However, the question here is, sorry, it's been a year since the junta took the place in the country, but then how about the public's responses to his the policies or rule, or his sort of approaches to ruling the country, and also what has actually been changed in the country itself?
And in fact, he promised that democracy will be restored. At one point in the past, he said that he just want to ensure there's peace and order before election can take place. But it seems like he wants to be prime minister, and he is the current prime minister for Prayut Chan-o-cha. While Yingluck Shinawatra, guess where she is now?
She is very far.
She's actually now taking a new job as a mushroom farmer.
Right. It's something very non-politically related.
Which is really weird. Yeah. And on the other hand, talking about the Rohingya, which is also a contentious issue, and also a transnational issue within this region, Obama has commended Indonesia for taking in the Rohingyas. Wow, Indonesia, one step forward for human rights.
Yes, And also because we did some commentary regarding on Obama's concerns over these Rohingya issues, perhaps last week, that he was really, really worried that how come this is regarding the Southeast Asia issue, but why not all the countries come together to help this Rohingya issue, which has been going on for decades. But finally, Indonesia and as well as Malaysia have taken the steps to help, giving helping hands to this community.
But that's not after a huge international pressure and a disgrace of, especially Malaysia, for having its naval boats stopping the boat people from coming in, as well as Thailand at that one point where Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia were playing ping pong against the boat people, and what we are seeing right now is Obama saying that when he was living in Indonesia, there were times where there were anti-Chinese riots. They were very violent and vicious, and in fact sometimes the Chinese Indonesians were treated very similarly to how Jewish Europeans were treated in Europe, and subject to stereotypes and resentment. And he's also equating the same kind of minority mistreatment or displacement with the issue of the Rohingya. And what is occurring in Myanmar right now is quite a natural occurrence for countries that is transiting from one political structure to another political structure. When Indonesia was transiting towards democracy, a lot of minority persecution towards the Chinese, towards the minorities in Maluku, in Kalimantan area. And the same thing if you look at the issue regarding on Bosnian war, former Yugoslavia, where when it was transiting towards democracy from a communist state, a lot of killing of innocent people.
That is very true, because if you also give the example of Korea as well, Korea, even though Korea is of course sort of well known for having democratic system, however, we also had a dictatorship state in 1970s. Even though economical state was very stable, but then we didn't have a freedom. We even had a curfew. But then after that, people really wanted to go for a democratic system. So there was very, very painful period. The whole students had a movement. So it was very bloody and very violent. So a lot of not only the minority, but the whole nation was attacking the government to make a change. So I believe that perhaps it's necessary to go through this painful period, but however it again comes with the human rights issues.
And we'll take one short break. When we return, we'll talk more about the economic and business areas in Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies, first and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And of course, you are back with us again on our ASEAN Daily. So talking about economy and business, one of the biggest, I would say, suggestion to take over or to tie up that is happening right now is AirAsia is favoring a tie-up with Malaysia Airlines.
And this is very interesting because Malaysia Airlines has been reporting a lot of news which was very heartbreaking, especially to the staff who has been working there for a long time.
6,000 of them.
Exactly. And then now AirAsia has stepped towards to helping them to recruit all the staff from Masa as well.
And in fact, of course, the infamous Tony Fernandez has said that it makes complete logical sense if together the two of us, meaning AirAsia and MAS, can make a regional powerhouse in the MRO. That's great. I guess MRO stands for the Malaysia airline business. So, and on Monday, new Malaysia Airlines CEO Christoph Muller said that he will be interested to explore when asked if AirAsia could become an equity partner in the MRO business.
This could be a regional powerhouse between the AirAsia and MAS itself. Although MAS or MAS is going back to focus more on the domestic flights, but the AirAsia is expanding a lot more than before. So perhaps the relationship between the AirAsia and MAS could be better in terms of helping each other and cooperating in terms of maintenance and repair as well.
MAS definitely needs to improve itself. More and more people are taking flights. Aviation is an industry that is growing in this region. But at the same time, MAS is being plagued by so many unfortunate incidents with the MH370, MH17, and the way it mismanaged its top management, and of course the current retrenchments of staff. No more bad news from MAS if it wants to rebrand itself.
Yeah, and Tony Fernandez was taking this opportunity, to be honest. And other than that, Malindo and My Taxi, they also have started helping to recruit these members from MAS as well, which is also good news because all these Malaysian companies are coming together to help give the helping hands.
So that's the Malaysia spirit.
I guess so. It's very positive. Yeah.
And on another hand, they also have heard that Malaysia Airlines and Khazanah National Berhad are focused on making the airline profitable. It is good for the aviation industry that all the airlines make money. Khazanah National, of course, we all know that it's an investment company. Perhaps it could help Malaysia Airlines to refocus how it reinvests itself and maybe changing its financial structure in a way that it can put the right money for the right business.
Yes, exactly.
And on another hand, talking about retrenchment, in Singapore right now, the real salaries are up by 3.9% last year as inflation dips. That means good news for Singaporeans.
It is, and it was just 4.9% in 2014, but now it's a 5.3. I mean, it was slightly lower than the 5.3% the year before. However, this private sector salaries are increasing. This is actually a very positive news to Singapore, and Singapore is also very well known for being one of the most expensive cities around the world,
or if not the most expensive cities. And this is according to the Manpower Ministry report on wages released recently, showed that the inflation eased to 1% in 2014 compared to 2.4% a year earlier. And after taking into account on inflation, the latest official data show that salaries actually increased at a very fast pace at around 3.9% compared to 2.9% 2 years ago.
And it is only fair to the public as well, who are especially in the private sectors, because we all know that the living costs are increasing, and also with all this implementation, and people like Singapore, it may be very developed, but there are also lower income sectors where they also need to be considered when it comes to economic growth. And that's when this news to having, even though it is very small increment, it helps a lot to the public.
I think when it comes to in Singapore, the issue here is no longer just about salaries, more towards about how to manage the cost of living when it's so expensive living in the city. This is one area that the government needs to look into. Unlike Malaysia, I think Malaysia is solely issues about salaries, which is something that I think maybe Malaysians can learn from Singapore.
For sure.
And anyway, we'll take another one short break. When we return, we'll talk about the social-cultural aspect of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
Okay, now we are talking about social culture, which is the fun part of the news commentary. Talking about social cultural news, ASEAN or Asian religious leaders are campaigning for peace. The annual 2-day executive meeting of the Asian Conference of Religious for Peace in Bandung, West Java, was kick-started with calls for everyone to promote religious peace. I think it's a great thing, because when it comes to Southeast Asia, so many religious persecution that is happening right now.
That's
Buddhists killing Muslim killing Muslim, and many more.
Yeah, for sure. And then regarding this Rohingya issue that we shortly mentioned before, this also need to be discussed, because this is totally a discrimination against even though they are minority, but this still an issue, because this is related to religion. So it is good to hear that all these Asian religious leaders are coming together and are having perhaps the campaign for peace in this region.
And another area that is entirely important that a lot of people are neglecting is the issue of Islamic State, or IS, or ISIS, or ISIL, whatever movement that they call it. It's getting more and more alarmed, because they are getting recruits from young people in Southeast Asia and Central Asia easily. Just recently, we reported it during ASEAN, where 2 were held from Singapore. They were about to go to Syria, and but a lot of the governments in Southeast Asia do not really know how to tackle or handle the situation. Even religious leaders in this region seems to be perplexed why more and more young people are attracted to ISIS rather than what they have here in Southeast Asia, which is more towards the moderate version of religion.
It's very tricky, but then perhaps the younger generation, or youth even, they're looking for benefits perhaps to go there, and then they must have a sort of deals that has been made for them to actually move themselves to other countries, which is very, very far. But then at the end, even though they want to get out of that community, it's very hard for them. So once they go there, even the government from Malaysia or Indonesia, it's really hard for them to bring them back to the countries.
And on another hand, regarding on the campaign for peace, Vice President Yusuf Kala reminded everyone, including participants from the conference and religious leaders of different religious faith coming together in different parts of Asia, that all religions share the similar principles of promoting peace regardless of differences in the way of teaching and rituals, which is true in a way, but many times religion becomes the bitcoins for governments and also for political leaders to use it against people that they dislike.
So that's called a misusage of a religion when it comes to the power. It is very I will say it is wrong to use religion as your own power to make policies, even to make laws out of it, because I mean, from there, you will just take all this freedom from people, and then, like, when people are voicing out for democratic systems, especially, then it becomes a bit more problem.
Like in Malaysia, Shia is being persecuted. You cannot profess that you are Shia or not. You'll be rounded out by the government. But in 2012, in Indonesia, East Java, a religious conflict broke out in Sampan, where Shia and anti-Shia groups were having a huge conflict with each other, causing hundreds of Shia followers to be forcibly evicted from their homes. So we need to move forward all this religious sect conflict, not just between religion. On the other hand, talking about socio-cultural, of course, the biggest problem that is happening in the football world is regarding on the FIFA controversy.
Yep, and there was a FIFA. Apparently, they paid the Irish FA £3.6 million to stop this legal action, and that's huge amount of money. And this is to
times
avoid
7, right?
Yeah, it is a lot, and it is to avoid the threat of the legal case over this World Cup playoff defeat in 2009. And this is quite a hot topic when it comes to football areas. Apparently,
it's definitely a very, very intimidating topic, considering that FIFA is the governors for all the football in the world, and they are inflicted by controversy and corruption. For example, Ireland were knocked out by France in a 2-leg playoff to qualify for the 2010 South Africa tournament, with a decisive goal in the second leg coming after a blatant handball by French striker Thierry Henry. And speaking to the Irish state broadcaster, Delaney said that it was a payment to the association not to proceed with a legal case. So what we are seeing right now is people feeling distrusted about how FIFA is creating more corruption.
Perhaps, but they've been always shouting for transparency and less corruption, but then it goes other way around, and it becomes a sort of, like you mentioned before, that it is becoming sort of mafia organization already. Yes, so it is a time to let them to consider again what it is the whole FIFA the spirit is about.
Yeah, the whole FIFA victory.
Yeah.
Your Korean accent is definitely coming out.
Yeah, too ambitious, I think.
And something is coming out of Korea that is worse than your accent. Will be the MERS outbreak. Sorry about that joke.
Well, this is apparently very serious outbreak that has spreading in South Korea, and the latest case that brought the total number of people diagnosed with this MERS is very, very deadly and very dangerous, and then the number reaching to 36 already.
And it's the largest outbreak outside of Saudi Arabia. I didn't know South Korea and Saudi Arabia has something in common. Finally, they do have. And finally, what we are seeing right now is government taking control of trying to contain the situation. We see that more than 900 schools from kindergartens to colleges now shut their gates, and the government have actually created a MERS hotline which took more than 3,000 calls just a couple of days ago as public fear has grown.
And then this is something that the Korean government is very, very taking the immediate reaction to save and also come up with a sort of solution to protect this disease from people, because it's getting serious, and once it is spread, it's really hard to stop the disease itself.
And hopefully something good will coming out of this, as in like maybe governments need to work together to find ways to find a vaccine or cure for this, because until now what is being mentioned here, there's no cure for MERS outbreak yet, which is quite a serious issue right now. On the other hand, just to lighten things up before we end the show, Samsung is a top brand in Asia. Surprise, surprise.
Yes, another news from South Korea, I guess. And then it is gaining a lot of popularity than ever before. And in terms of technology and that information that the public has been receiving, it's really clear, and the people can make use of all this technology at easy and also at their convenience.
Just recently, Samsung were being accused for not creating innovation, but it seems like people still love the brand Samsung.
They do.
I do hope that Samsung will keep up with innovation, become the leading innovators especially in smartphones, and that is something that even people from the campaign Asia Pacific managing editor said that the looks like the start of Asia's brand growing from local heroes into regional giants and eventually onto multinational status. So it seems like Asia brands are taking control over the world soon.
So it is a global innovation now coming from Asia, and it's something that we should be proud of. And don't stop here, keep going, and make all this nation proud of the products.
So there you go. That's all from us. This is Arlene.
And this is Grace.
And of course, you can always keep up with us from our social media. We have our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And as well as don't forget to visit our website durianasian.com, and when you're on go, please do download the TuneIn app and look for us at Durian ASEAN.